Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Sean, back at it again with another deck profile. Um, this time, I'm gonna go back to one of my most favorite deck of all time, Branded, and we're gonna talk about the changes that I would make coming into the Phantom Nightmare during this time, because a lot of things have changed, including the hand trap choices and the change in the way that people will deck build. So I'm updating my own version of the deck to make sure to keep up with the Phantom Nightmare meta. So let's get right on to it. So first off is the main deck. 3 Aluber, still the one of the best starter of the deck. 3 Albas, 2 Cartesia, and 2 Quem. So in the upcoming format, draw is gonna be a big problem in the format right now. This deck plays perfectly around draw, because you are never gonna search again after that one single draw drop on you. So the ratios are still perfectly fine. However, one thing that I would mention is that I was cutting down to 1 copy of Cartesia. I would cut down 1 copy of Cartesia here and make this a 3-up, Quem a 3-up, because here's the thing. Quem is so good right now because of her ability to play around draw, and she wins the game by herself by basically just manipulating the graveyard into Fallen of Albas and a lot more. She can bring back a Mirror Jade that's already used, and she can also like bring back a lot of other stuff in the graveyard. So you can continue to play and outgrind your opponent forever. So, and also you can summon her off a brand opening. So Quem in this format is just absolutely amazing in tandem with Sanctifier Dragon, which is gonna be your main, most likely your main branded fusion target instead of Albion. So I think having the 3 Quem is pretty good this format, but 2 Quem is necessary in this format for you to continue to play through all those Fire King decks and all that stuff. So this card is absolutely incredible this format, and I would consider playing 3. Cartesia is definitely cut downable to 1. Tragedy, Shrouded, and Mercurier, just standard pieces for the deck. Some people play more than this, but because of the draw, this card plays directly into draw, so seeing multiple of this card is not particularly ideal against draw. So you want to play around draw as well. One thing that I have been experienced with is I'm not playing any Bishils in this deck. So no Saronir and no Lubellion. So the reason why is that Lubellion plays into draw, and also Saronir does nothing into the fire decks, which if you go into a major event like a regional or a YCS and you're seeing like almost 80% of the deck is fire decks, Bishils does absolutely nothing against them. But Dragoon here, the Dark Musician here is for the Dragoon, but Dragoon in itself is amazing because it's also a timepiece that you can go into just to basically burn your opponent for free if you're going second. And also some decks struggles to out Dragoon, like Rescue Ace have a hard time outing the Dragoon, and Gimmick Puppet is still the best game 1 win con, one of the best win con that you have. In Branded, you have to learn how to play to not rely on Gimmick Puppet every time. You don't want to go into Gimmick Puppet all the time. So what you want to go first is either you go for the Dragoon line or Mirror Jade first before you think about this. Unless you're absolutely sure that you can Gimmick Puppet lock guaranteed before you get to like the main phase per se, before your opponent gets the chance to do anything. Like they will legit going to droplet you if you rely too much on the Gimmick Puppet. So I would consider siding this card out as well, going forward. cutting going forward to the format. 3 opening and 3 branded fusion. It's still the same 6 power 6, but now opening is now so much better this format, because into those fire decks that likes to pop your cards, this card is now your best friend. So you want to send this off of Quem or Albion to the graveyard to be able to protect your fusions for the upcoming turns as well. The 1 loss, 1 red, and 1 retribution. Nothing has changed here. You have the access to loss is a little bit less now because of the lack of Lubellion, but I think that it's still a card that is super busted and force your opponent to respect it and force your opponents to play around it. So it's just incredible because it's a free search and your opponent cannot respond to you when you fusion summon any monster. So even with Aliber, searching out the loss is already like good enough value in this deck. And also like loss kind of plays into draw a little bit. So still, loss is still such a good card in terms of like basically magical meltdown your opponent per se. Utility piece, 1 Foolish Burial to dump the Tragedy, and the 1 Call by the Grave as utility piece. One thing that I want to go back and talk about in Branded is that these 3 are always flexible. So either you could, because of like the lack of Bestial, right? And Bestial makes Mercurier a bit better in this deck because you have Mercurier in the graveyard as a target for your Saronir. But now, because this list I don't play any Bestial, now Mercurier is harder to get into. Harder to like fully, it's harder to fully utilize the Mercurier in itself. So you can probably cut this for a Kit, because Kit is really good in the fact that she can play through draw, because she can add back the branded cards from the graveyard or banish as well as the free special summon, as long as you control a Fallen of Albaz fusion. So Kit is also not a bad choice in this deck if you want to go that route. So here you can go for Tragedy, Shadow Dragon, and Kit here if you don't play Bestial. But this is a monster negate, so it depends on how you want to play your deck per se. You want more gas, or you want a layer of disruption off of Branded Lost. Non-engine, 3 Ash and 3 Imperm. So these 6 are what I opt to play. I know Ash is really terrible against like the fire decks. However, against those rogue matchups and Labyrinth specifically, not opening the Ash against them, and if you have like a draw in your hand here against the Fire King deck, it just feels like complete garbage. You're gonna lose the game. And Ash is not even like completely terrible against those fire decks, but it's in general it's just really good to have this hand trap as a whole. And then Imperm is just Imperm. There's nothing more to say. It plays perfectly around the triple T spells, which is also another huge aspect about like Imperm in general. So there's that as well. 3 Super Poly, really good against fire decks and Labyrinth. Super Poly is such a busted card this format. I think everybody should play Super Poly, no matter like what deck you're playing, unless your deck locks you out of a fusion summoning. So the only bad matchup that I could think of Super Poly going into is Kashtira, and that's about it. There are choke points to Kashtira that you can Super Poly if they are going second. So if they make the Shangri-La and they have the Rice Heart in the field, you can Super Poly them that way. But I don't think that Super Poly is a worthy card against Kashtira in that matter. So like you can side this out for further hand traps to help you play through stuff as well. And then last but not least is the tactics card. Um, this could be either tactics or crossout. I like thrust more here as more like an extender, but in and then of course we have the duplication as a thrust target, but it's the extender in this, the extender factor in here is what allows me to pick thrust over crossout, because crossout is really bad going second while these are amazing going second. So I would rather have cards that be really good going both first and second in this format because going second, the ability to go second in this format is super important. We're entering a format where hand traps and board breakers, you either are in the extreme side. You either main a bunch of hand traps, like 14, 15 hand traps, or you main a bunch of board breakers. So being able to have the flexibility to play these is extremely important for the upcoming format, and this will help you push through those board as branded because of these cards, unironically. Now for monster extra deck, we have the one Sanctifier, the best card this format by far. In this deck, you're gonna, most of the time you're gonna brand fusion into this card. Some lines you can go into Dragoon, but some lines you can go straight into the Sanctifier. And Sanctifier control is an aspect of branded that a lot of people haven't really, a lot of inexperienced branded players haven't really played this way before. It's a viable thing to do in branded. And even though you don't have the gimmick puppet in your graveyard, having the Sanctifier to multiple times in multiple of your opponent's turn to perfectly grind through them with like the Albaz to make Mirror Jade that way, it's just extremely good. So, and this card also cannot be used as a target. You cannot target this card with card effects as well. And it cannot be used as fusion material, so your opponent cannot super poly this card away. It's so good in this format. So implement this card more in your plays if as you see fit through the upcoming formats. To Avion, nothing to say much. This card is absolutely still good. I'd say. 1 Lubellion, 2 Mirror Jade. Standard. Nothing to say much about them. 1 Rinbrum, and then the 1 Titaniclad. Rinbrum got better this format as a super poly target with the Albaz against Fire King decks. So having the Rinbrum, knowing how to utilize Rinbrum properly with the Albaz engraved, it's just super important. And there's also the Titaniclad here to super poly away those big monsters as well. It's also an answer to Pearly if they don't have the Delicious Memory under it. So this will just beats over the Expelliarmus pretty easily. That's it for the Albaz monsters. I have the Grand Guignol and Coridas package. I think personally that I would cut Coridas for the Proskenian, because what Proskenian do is that it can rip their Promethean princess from their graveyard out, or they can rip away another target. You can rip away another target engraved because it's a quick effect, so you can get rid of their targets extremely quickly and basically force them away from their graveyard because it's a quick effect. While Coridas only like really reverse their attack to 0, which is really cool in a lot of situations and during the main phase. But I think that the Coridas will end up better in the long run in this format against those Snake Eye and those Fire King decks in general, because you just take their monsters away from them from triggering their effects or summoning back, which is extremely crucial to like basically stop them from getting a bunch of resources with the Proskenian. along with the Grenwick Gnomes. So Guardian Chimera, branded in red target, no need to ask much. And the Dragoon, this card, as I have explained, it's really good against those decks that targeting cards. Not particularly good, that great against pure Snake Eyes, because pure Snake Eyes has a much easier time to just get rid of the Dragoon. But at that point, I think there's better things for you to go into that will help you against those matchups as well. So Dragoon is still such a good card because you can just sit on Dragoon at a couple pass and you probably be able to play through a lot of boards as well, because Dragoon is just ridiculous this format. And then the Dragostapelia, I've tried to cut this card playing branded multiple times, but I keep missing this card a lot, so I just end up sticking to it. It's another layup disruption that you can have. So you can use this to tag out the mirror. You can tag out the Mirror Jade with a fusion effect into this, and then trigger Quem to just bring back the Mirror Jade from the graveyard, which is really cool. It gives you basically 2 extra disruption during your opponent's turn. And then last but not least are the 2 super poly targets. So that is it for the extra deck for branded. Now, side deck are all personal preference and what you think you're gonna see at your locals the most. So here I have 3 Droll and Bell to cover those generic matchups. And then Bell is for mostly Labyrinth and the Mirror. And it's just really good into those matchups specifically. You don't have to necessarily play Bell. You can play Gravekeeper's Inscription here as well to basically stop those decks. But in my opinion, if you drop the Droll on those fire decks, you already win the game. Like, they can't search, they can't do anything. They have to play a line that plays around Droll, which is super convoluted. If they activate Bonfire, they basically lose the game. So triple evenly for the Rescue Ace matchup, and then the triple Cosmic for Floodgates and all those shenanigans. I don't play Duster because I don't think Duster is necessary. Yes, I have Thrust in my deck, but I play triple Droplet instead because I think this format, the Droplet is super strong. Going first and second, you can set the Droplet, and basically what you can do is that you can Droplet your opponent's Sanctifier. So like against like a branded matchup, Mirror or something, if they're trying to Gimmick Puppet you, Droplets is the out to that certain scenario. Also, it's just really good against those decks that put up 3-4 negates on the board. And it's just stopping it in general is just like absolutely amazing. Turns them into vanilla with half attack. It's just ridiculous card. So if you would change something in here, I would, these 6 are probably interchangeable. These 6, you can change them into realistically anything you want per se. I would probably change them for it could be double Pankratops and another Duster here if you're afraid of the Rescue matchup that much. But I think in overall, this is what I'm gonna run with as my side deck for the upcoming format. Now, last but not least, one thing that I do not play anymore, not in this format, is Nadir Servant, because Nadir Servant is not as good this format as compared to like the last format. Going second, because Gimmick Puppet in general, like the whole reason why you're playing the Nadir Servant package is you're trying to find a way to Gimmick Puppet lock your opponent, as well as another way to extend past that. But Nadir Servant is really bad into Droll where if you open Aluber and Nadir and they draw after you Aluber, you cannot resolve that Nadir Servant. Like, you literally cannot. And then into Shifter, Nadir really doesn't do anything, because it has to send a card to the graveyard, which sucks, because it's just, you cannot play the game if you open Nadir into a Shifter deck. So there's no reason for you to play Nadir Servant, because this deck in itself can achieve the victory by outpacing your opponent, even without the use of Gimmick Puppet. So that is it for the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoy a little bit of a longer video, because I want to explain a little bit about my logic behind why I play certain cards this format. And that will be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoy, and see you guys next time. Peace.